What is up, everyone? It is June 28th. It's a Sunday, and let's get right into it. We have a couple pretty interesting weeks behind us, some challenging weeks for sure. And um, I think that resonated on Twitter and many other platforms that I follow where people are struggling right now. So I think the name of the game is going to be yet again just capital preservation, hanging in there, weathering that storm, and we're going to just keep moving forward here. All we can do is keep executing. We don't rush into trades we don't need to be in. But if we see setups that meet our criteria, we take them and we manage risk and we just keep grinding forward. So let's look at the dollar right away. It's kind of directionless for me, but I see some downside. But I'm also following some of the other guys I really respect, and their opinions are saying upside. So it's anyone's game at this point, as it always is, but there's a lot of confusion in the markets, and let's just have a quick look at the index here. So we had that sell-off, we had the pullback, and we broke out of that larger channel. This is just a 4-hour chart. We broke out of that larger channel to the downside, which, this was going back some time anyways. We had the run up and we sold off. Now, I thought we would have corrected a little bit higher, but I'm now looking at, as I zoom in, I'm now looking at some of these patterns here that are showing pretty strong rejection at these levels. And when you start looking at these levels, you're looking left, you can see double tops potentially forming. Um, let's just move. And we're getting close to these EMAs, these 200 EMAs. Now that's just on a 2-hour, but moving back in, we'll see what happens. If this is just more upside or downside, I'm not really sure at this point. But I will talk about that in a future as we get through the charts here. Yeah, we're pressed right up against this trend line, and the indicator's showing some selling pressure here. Uh, yeah, I don't know. We have civil wars being fought in the states right now. We have I call them civil wars. I know they're not really. There's civil unrest, I guess, is the more appropriate term. But yeah. So, anyways, we'll see what happens. But I am bearish while being protectionary. I am bearish the U.S. dollar at this point in time. Being bearish the U.S. dollar is going to see upside on the euro. Um, we had the break of the trend line. This is a 4-hour. I find a lot's going on in the 4-hour instead of a daily right now. So we have had the break, the run up. We've had the pullback, and now you can see some of these wicks that are really strongly being rejected. And it'll be interesting to see if this carries on. We've had our indicators down in the oversold area, and it's yeah, it's let's see what happens. I see nothing but upside for gold, and the US yen is negatively correlated with gold. So now, saying that, as we talk about gold, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze here. Um, as we talk about gold, the it is coming up to its resistance areas, and so let's see what happens. You can see all these little things are, I think, if we wait a day or so to start getting into trades, we might have ourselves a little bit of an advantage. Just we're never missing a trade. It moves on in a direction, and if we don't, if we don't catch onto it, we can catch the continuation pattern, be it a pennant or 50% fib pullback or a flag or something along those lines. So never think of a trade that you've missed. Just see it as more clarity in a trade that you can then figure out how to get into. So yeah, let's move on. The pound USD. This was something we actually I posted the trade idea here. And as you can see, it did nothing but run against us. I thought because we broke out of this trend line, there was the flag continuation to the downside. I thought we would have had a little bit of a pullback and a drop. We didn't. We had a full pullback up and then a drop back. So we're actually, if we had held on to that trade, which I don't think any one of us did, I know I didn't, our stops were like right around there, so it just kissed them, and that was a poor trade, a poor timing, poor entry, which I had disclosed, but I really felt like we were running away quickly, but I was wrong on that one, and so anyways, we're back here, and we'll see what happens. Obviously the pound, or they call this the cable, but the pound USD is now right next to this support area. If you look left, all these support areas here as well. So we're oversold in our indicators. Lots of blue showing buying pressure. So we'll see. We'll see, and let's just keep these little areas in mind. And as we go through these charts, these 20 plus or minus charts, we start to put a picture together, and we can say, I am feeling bearish or bullish on the U.S. dollar because so many pairs are correlated to the U.S. dollar. You might as well start there, and that's what I like to do. The the odd USD, we had this breakout. We're moving along, and here's our trend line here that I've put in. Now, this to me would be a signal in a sense. Yes, we've dropped a little bit through, but you can see how strongly this candle has been rejected. Yet again, we have our even divergence here. It hasn't really rolled over yet, but we are in our oversold territory. We have price being rejected here. We have price that clearly was rejected right on a trend line here. And is that speaking back to us seeing some bearishness in the U.S. dollar? And that would, of course, correlate to bullishness in the odd in this pair. So let's just keep that in mind moving forward. This was a pair that I traded in and out of, in and out of, in and out of. I was taking out a break even so many times last week. Took a couple bucks out of it on Friday, and I don't know. I am in a trade on this one, and I am short, and it's one of those ones that really I'm not sure, but I manage risk pretty well, so I'm not too worried. It's just one trade out of the many that I'll take. But I feel like it just hasn't corrected far enough, and that correction I think needs to come to here or here. But that is, yet again, you can see if it's more upside, we just aren't down. The indicator just isn't showing to me. So that's my assumption. I'm in this trade currently to the downside. Let's see what happens here. Same thing. My bias is U.S. dollar weakness. So yeah, this one's interesting. The U.S. dollar CAD, as we know, is always correlated to gold, or pardon me, oil. We'll get into oil in a minute because I am very bearish on oil for many reasons. But yeah, I don't want to jump ahead, but because I want to spend a bit of time on oil. But we now have had this run up. We've had this you could say a gravestone doji. Um, that would work for me, calling it that. I like to be accurate in my analysis, the naming of these things. And it's right on a 200 EMA on the 4 hour. It's right at a resistance level. Is it good enough? Is it convincing enough? We will see. This is a trade that I've been talking about for a little while, and we had a discussion where some guys in the group mentioned going to the downside. It obviously did go to the downside, but it wasn't sustained. And it was uh, one of the gentlemen who brought it up to my attention. I don't care whether we're right or wrong, and it's all about timing at the end of the day. But this little move you can see is not as valuable as this move here, and I think it'll even go further. But that's what this trade was, a weekly slash um, um, daily swing trade. I don't want to call it a position trade, but it was a swing trade, and it still is, in my opinion. I think we've had the break of that trend line, and I think we're seeing that run up. And with the bearishness of oil driving that CAD down, the euro is set to move up in this pair. That is my analysis on this one. So I am in this again. It keeps confirming. Even if we get a reaction, we're not there yet. And that reaction can start coming in this shaded zone, and we're just not there yet. So you can see I have my alert set, and yeah, so let's just see where that goes. Euro yen, is it confirming at this trend line? Maybe. I'm not in the trade. I have enough on my plate right now. We are in this shaded area that I've outlined, and just having a quick little perusal here. Yeah, is this the run up, the flag? We've hit that 50% fib level, which I love. Another run up, another flag, and are we off to the races? We'll see what happens. And I think tomorrow, I have a feeling that things are going to start early this week, and yeah, that's my analysis on that. The euro pound, you can see the pound got pretty weak last week, and you can see that it really ran up. I would expect further upside to this as well. And I'd be watching this more on the lower time frames. And you can see how things start to really flag out. And if this was a rejection, I would have expected a little more drop within that period of time. But um, yeah, so that is my assumption that we have a little more upside to this pair as well. Euro Swissy, it's not a nightmare of a situation, but it has been ridiculous. Look how close it is to the stop. I probably should just manually close it, but I haven't. And we had the break, potentially double bottom here. I don't know. I'm in the trade. I'm expecting to be taken out anytime. I do believe I've also taken a little bit off of this trade as it came back up here, um, and I just didn't want the exposure, so I slowly took some off. This I've had on for a couple weeks now. Anyone who's following this has seen that I've had this up for a little bit, and we had the drop, but I do see a little more upside to this. I think the euro is going to get stronger over the next week or two, just with our analysis, and uh, and yeah, I think a little more upside to that pair. The pound Swissy, you can see this has been here for a little while as well, and we are getting that downward. We had the break. We had even here, if you look, you've got your head and shoulders pattern here, the break, the pullback, and continuation to the downside. So the next stop, as we have broken below this area here, I think the next stop would be over in this area, and you start getting those whole numbers. We could even drop a quick alert here. You start getting those whole numbers. You can see it's at 1.150 and moving on. So that's where I would be looking for the reaction. And I'm not going to go short or anything to try to catch that, but it's definitely something that we are prepared for. Now that we have that alert set, I have a lot of alerts set right now, and we have opportunity, and we'll just sit and wait and wait for that price to come to us and wait for the confirmation. Pound yen, not a pair I often trade, but you can see you've had these patterns, these breaks, these retests, these pullbacks, and I think we're going to be heading a little lower there. And you can see the pound weakness even in the dollar. Um, you have these drops coming down, and it's it needs to correct a little further for me to get interested to go long. I don't trade this pair often. I do a lot of these charts because I know you guys like these pairs. It's not. I really have narrowed down my charts. I don't. I look at them because of these analysis videos that I do, but then I focus on my kind of my bias. I guess I am biased towards a bunch of pairs, and you see that in my repetitive analysis. But the odd CAD don't trade a lot because they're both commodity currencies. But I think if you're going to try to trade anything, you could trade something along those lines. But yeah, I'm sitting on my hands with that one. The odd yen, we did really well. This was a trade over the last few weeks where we called that head and shoulders. We called the break. We had a trend line drawn down here. We broke there. We shorted here. It was really just we caught this pair sucking and blowing, and it was really great. So I feel sometimes that when I do well with a pair, I don't want to look at it much, as I don't want my bias to be kind of going back to that honey hole, if you will. And so something, here I do believe we're skipping a little off this trend line, and we will see a little bit more upside, at least to this area, and then we can start making decisions and watching um, for our confirmation areas. But at this point, I forget what was it this. Yeah, so we have that same confirmation sort of going on there as well, that same sort of upward trend line action trade that we'd be looking at, a continuation trade, and we'll just keep an eye on things as days develop. It's going to be pretty crazy this week, I think. Uh, I think a lot of things will come to a head this week. Gold getting to where it's going to, oil dropping, the S&P dropping, futures up, futures down. I think we're just going to see a lot of people who just don't want to play anymore. I think we'll see that. I think we'll see that um, enough's enough. Okay, this bubble is real. Traders making decisions based on that. This is a trade I'm still in, and it was traded on a weekly. And you can see that I don't mind holding. This was where I traded, and it is failing to break above that 200 EMA on the weekly. And this is all we can do. So we have our double top. We have our double top price made it to that. It broke it a little bit, strongly rejected. There is our opportunity right there. And then we've had price drop away, and we've had price try to come back up. And using that 50% fib, even if you miss this, now this is on a weekly, if you miss this, I wonder if you would have been able to get back in. You would have been able to get back in. And anyone who's taken my training, and this is something that I just recognized live, anyone who's taken that 20-minute training video of the confirmation squared is what I've coined it, a trade technique that I really did discover myself now through my further research. I'm not the only one who uses it, of course, but very proud that through my own time with the markets, I discovered this consistency. And you can see if it dropped away, this is a trade that you wouldn't have wanted to chase. Even though you're trading on the weekly, there it is. You're missing 120 pips. You weren't able to catch it. But now with your patience, if you set that 50% fib level, you would be in a trade and you would already be into profit. You can see how it's failing to break above and close that 200 EMA. Now that's a weekly 200 EMA, so that's going to matter. And you can see that it does. So we'll see what happens this week. Let's keep our eyes on that. But I would hazard some more downside dropping through these trend lines already happening, dropping through, retesting, dropping away. I'm looking to further downside here. Yeah. Bitcoin, an idea that I've already posted early this week. It was showing some confirmation to me. We've had these long wicks showing. Bitcoin's a son of a gun, so I don't get too excited about it or anything, but we have this potential double bottom. We have this confirmation area, run up, potentially a flag here and further run up. This is going to be correlating a little bit with the S&P dropping, and I would not call Bitcoin a safe, or even any crypto, a safe haven currency or a trade, a safe haven trade such as gold is or something like that. But this is where a lot of things are going to be shifting this week. I do see further upside, and whether that's to the moon or not, I have no idea. But there's that 10,000 level. But there's that trend line, and this trend line goes back quite some time. Ascending trend line going back to 2017. This is an idea I posted just a couple hours ago. So let's see what happens. Is it just breakthrough, retest, further downside, or is it upside? It's just a trade idea. I am not in it. I did not enter this trade even after my broker went live, but it's a potential trade that you can watch. And I think we're in and around there where I sent the signal. So it's basically the same, but we'll see what happens. S&P, this is a piece of garbage. I've done well scalping it recently. We talked about it last week. Last week, so 2 weeks ago, the trade idea was posted, and last week it came to life. So I think it was this area here. I cannot quite remember where we were, but it was a trade. I'm not going to go through the Telegram, but it was time stamped and live trading action. And it was a trade that um, there is something developing in the markets. And to be fair, to make it a little more personal, my dad's an investor who, he goes to Edwards Jones and this sort of stuff. I've learned this craft on my own. He's a buy and hold, and he has a couple bucks to throw around, and he's with his mutual fund investor guy, and these guys, they only get paid for assets under management. If money's just sitting around, they do not get paid, as I understand it. And so they want to buy and they want to go long and they want to collect their fees. I really don't like the model. I think it's broken and I think it's archaic. And it prompted me. I don't disclose much with him. I let him do his thing. That's how he wants to operate, and it's worked for him. He was a little shaken when the market dropped so much a couple months ago, and I reached out to him just a couple days ago, and I said, Dad, I think you should just ease out of the market. I'm not saying short anything. I'm not saying long anything. I'm just saying lighten up your positions. And I think for me to send him that email is a really strong indicator of where my bias is, that this is built on eggshells, and I know everything. Oh, the market's forward thinking. Oh, the market takes in all data. Like, there's always just so much ridiculous concepts around. Like, no matter what happens, someone comes out and says, "I told you so." And so we cannot trade that. And that's why I got into technical analysis, because I want to be able to trade things. And I just don't see a ton of upside here. We have a second wave happening in the U.S. Joblessness, nothing is looking good, and I don't know. I really do not see a positive outlook, and things need to relax before they can get better. And so that's my quick little story about the S&P. I am short. Um, we, as a group, I think should be short, and you do whatever you want to do, but that's where I see things. I don't see a ton of upside. Another trade idea we took was the WTI U.S. oil. It's sometimes called oil simply, and this is the trade idea here. You can see that we made it into profit, and I followed fib from here to here. It rebounded, made it to that 50% fib level. I posted another idea where I went short again because I moved my stop down to this level. So I break even here, added to my position here, and now we're dropping away. I think honestly we should be looking in and around that $34 mark before we even start thinking about going long, or unless there's some very strong image, strong pattern, strong confirmation, strong candle pattern that we're going to be going back up. But we once again, lockdowns are happening. I'm in Costa Rica, and Costa Rica is opening their borders potentially, but not even to the United States. And I think that's just so powerful of a statement. And I think if you ask most Americans what they thought of Costa Rica, they would say third world country. Well, I'm standing in Costa Rica where they're now denying the United States, and where everyone is wearing a mask. And these are people, some people truly with nothing, but they have the wherewithal to put a fucking mask on their faces, because this is the way the world is going. And this is not anything, this isn't one and done. This is happening. We are dealing with global pandemics, and this will not be the last one. Just like SARS wasn't the last one, just like all of um, these issues that we deal with, this is a global community now, and this will not be the last situation. So it's very interesting watching this macro event play out. Oil is obviously manipulated as well because of OPEC and stuff, but it is used in planes and boats, and when all of that starts to really get throttled, it affects the demand on it, supply and demand, and I believe we're going to be going short. Now, this was where we had the sell-off. I fibbed from the top to the bottom. This is where oil went to minus 40, ridiculous. And then it had that really strong run up. So absolutely beautiful. And we got to this level. We talked about oil kissing that 200 EMA on the daily, which it absolutely did. Like, oh, look at that. Just beautiful. So it just kissed it, formed that hammer, and has dropped away since. So shooting star, I guess technically. It's not really a shooting star. I just go with a hammer, but just a clear pattern that enough's enough for oil's run up, and now we are getting into some more downside. So that's my little rant and rave about oil, and let's keep moving forward. So gold is going to be heavily watched, heavily traded, heavily piled into, and we've already broken above this area that I had highlighted. And we had that drop, but then it was strongly rebounded. I've been kind of scalping gold here and there, and let's have a look here because we have patterns that there we are. So we have this, the guys will call it a cup and handle, uh, and we have this area of resistance. We're at that area of resistance right now. This is the next stop, which is 1917-ish, 1920-ish, 1900 even. I think that 200 is obviously a realistic target in the nearish future. And this is a weekly chart, and you can see price confirmed here, and it's just going to keep going, I think. If you made a nice wide stop, I think you would be doing pretty well for yourself. Silver is another precious metal that semi-precious metal that I see moving upward. We have more headroom. While gold is pretty much nestling into those areas of resistance, I think we have that 18, that 19, and you can see as it kissed these trend lines, it has then started to confirm with these kind of candles right here, right on the trend line. So I see more upside for silver. I see more upside for gold. And going back to um, the macro outlook of what's happening, we will see what's happening with that U.S. Swissy. And yeah, let's just tread lightly this week. I am still short the U.S. Economy basically through the S&P, and I am still short oil. And I have gold longs, but not in my CFD broker right now. So yeah, so let's just trade light. Let's trade well. Let's get into it this week. We've had some good weeks behind us, and let's just keep doing that. And this is riding a bike. You just got to keep getting on it and keep pedaling. So once again, respect everyone's efforts, and I'm really excited to chat Friday and see how we do throughout the week. Thank you.